Hi everyone, my name is Holly and I am going to be destroying my TBR in March. I'm going to be showing you all the books that I plan to read in March. Now this is a fairly large TBR pile. I kind of want to use the month of March as like a challenge month. I'm kind of calling it the March Reading Madness Challenge. Now I'm sure March Reading Madness is a thing. I'm sure it's a readathon. There is no way that it isn't. So I apologize. I am not trying to steal someone's idea, but it's just too much of a perfect title for what I'm going to do. It's March, I'll be reading, and it's going to be madness. I want to get ahead of my Goodreads reading challenge, or let's be honest, I just want to catch up. And the original plan was to read a ton of shorter books, but as I was going through my shelves, figuring out what I wanted to read, I ended up pulling out like books that were over 400 pages, 500 pages. So my March wrap-up should be incredibly satisfying. I want to turn around so many books in that video. Now a lot of these books I'm going to mention, I have mentioned in recent book hauls and like book outlet hauls, so I'm very excited to read books that I have acquired recently. So the first book I'm actually currently reading is A Witch in Time by Constance Sayers. This is a historical fantasy that just came out in February actually, so I'm very happy to be getting to it very quickly. It takes place in 1895 following a woman who has to relive a doomed love affair through multiple lives. This is typically not a book that I would gravitate towards, but there is something so intriguing about this, especially since there is a fantasy element to it, and also it has that trope of someone living multiple lifetimes, which I know is a trope that a lot of people are loving lately, so I want to read this and tell you guys if it's good or not. I really hope it is because I have high hopes, and it's just something that I'm really in the mood to read right now. Dreams of the Dark Sky by Tina LeCount Myers. This is the sequel to The Song of All, which I read in February. I haven't filmed my wrap-up yet, so you'll hear more of my thoughts about that book very soon, but at least you know that I liked it enough to immediately go on to the sequel. I'm so excited to continue this story without giving away any spoilers. This book in particular is following a pair of unlikely allies as they have to come together to try and survive the devastating aftermath of the first book. This is not a well-known series at all, and I'm so excited and happy to give this series some spotlight because, like I said, this is very underrated. Not many people have read it. Also, the rating for the first book is not that great, which makes me so sad, but I'm so happy to have found like the hidden gem within the rough of the book world. And yeah, like, I adore this story. I do have the third book as an e-arc, so to pile on my TBR even more, I would not mind going on to the third book after reading this. The next book I have here should get most of you very excited. Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson. I recently finally finished the original Mistborn trilogy, Era 1, and I am so ready to now move on to and binge read the second era. If you haven't seen my previous video, I did a whole video of me talking about my thoughts. I highly recommend you check that out, especially since I bump my head really hard in that video on this shelf. A heart-wrenching ow. I just hit my head super hard on the shelf. Oh, my noggin. I would absolutely love to at least get to the first two books of this series. Actually, I can just pull it out for you. So right here we have Shadows of Self and Bands of Mourning, I think the third book is called. I'm very unsure if I will be able to get to the third book, but I would love to get to these two. This series takes place 300 years after the events of the Hero of Ages, and I'm so very excited to see what the heck is going on. I know this series is not as intense and crazy as Era 1, so don't worry. I'm going into these thinking that they're more mystery and kind of humor driven, so I'm very hyped, and you should be too. Iren Foot by Dave Duncan. I recently hauled this one, and that's right, I know this is the first book to a new series, and I really shouldn't be adding more series to my TBR, but these books are so incredibly short, and I feel like I'm going to fly through them. This is a historical medieval fantasy. That's right, that beautiful M word. Medieval is like my favorite theme of all time. I mean, the catchphrase is what got me: medieval magic, murder, and mayhem. This series just sounds like it's going to be so fun. It takes place in 1164, following two characters who at the beginning are in sage school, and then they find themselves in a castle where the house sage has been murdered, and they have to figure out who did it. So I'm guessing it's like a whodunit mystery, and they suspect that black magic was at play. I don't know, there's something about this that I am so attracted to. And I might have gotten the second book as well recently. I know I haven't read the first one, but I have such a good feeling about it, and I have a gut feeling that I'm going to want the second book on hand. So another pair goes on to my March TBR. Okay, so I lied. There are a lot of books here. For me, I read an average 5 to 6, 7 books a month. We're surpassing that for sure. Okay, so I actually have 3 sci-fi on my TBR. I'm very shocked. I'm very excited. I'm a very obsessed fantasy reader, but we're delving into more sci-fi. Semiosis by Sue Berg. I've had this book on multiple TBRs last year, and I still have not gotten to it. There's another very similar book in this situation. It starts with an M and ends with an E. We're talking about malice. People bring that up to me all the time. That series, I just feel like I need to be in the right mindset for it, and right when I'm about to pick it up, I feel like, no, I'm not ready. It'll happen eventually. My boyfriend Darren also really wants me to read this. He's been wanting me to read this for years, and I'm finally doing it. I have a feeling I'm going to want to listen to the audiobook as I read along to this. I feel like when it comes to hard sci-fi, that really helps me. I'm not the type of person who can put on an audiobook and just do other things while I listen. I just cannot concentrate. So when I listen to an audiobook, I actually follow along with the physical copy. That might be weird, I don't know. But this is a first contact with aliens kind of sci-fi where the people find a new planet and the plants there are alive and they basically kill them. So it's kind of a horror sci-fi mix. I'm very hyped for it, and I hope it's as good as I think it is. Another sci-fi is The Luminess Dead by Caitlin Sterling. This is another horror sci-fi mix, and this has to deal with a woman digging through these cave systems trying to get out of the planet, while the only thing she has is her radio and the person that is on the other side of that radio helping her trying to get out of these caves. And I think that sounds absolutely claustrophobic and creepy and amazing. I hauled this one recently too, so it's another one that I'm very excited to immediately get off my TBR. I know many of you have hopes for it too, and maybe you guys can read along with me in March. And it's blurbed by Martha Wells, who is the author of the Murderbot series, so I'm expecting it to be pretty good. And the final sci-fi that I have here, I am so hyped for: 16th Watch by Mike Cool. I am so ready to dive into this new series by Mike Cool. This is a military sci-fi. He's the author of the Armored Saint series, or is it the Sacred Throne series? That's what it is. It's one of my all-time favorites, and I expected this to be a 5-star. I want to pick this up so badly, but it's a sci-fi, so it's a little bit scary for me, but I mean, I'm gonna pick it up no matter what. It's Mike Cool. His writing is so beautiful, and he writes battle scenes so epically, and it really feels like you're there. So I'm expecting some epic space battles. Like, that's what I'm craving, and that's what I hope for. We're following a main female character who used to be a part of the search and rescue team, and she's retired, but now she's being thrust into the role of this Coast Guard elite unit to try and prevent this all-out war on the surface of the moon that could possibly also destroy Earth, and that just sounds awesome. Also, this cover, like, it sounds like a freaking winning book to me. Alrighty, so that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, possibly 6, 7, 8, 9 books to read in March. If you know me, you know that is a lot, and also some of these books are pretty thick. So I am ready. Tell me down below if you're going to join me into this challenge. I would love for you to try and read as much as you possibly can in March. Make it extra special. Make it an extra challenge. Tell me if you're going to join. Go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, because it helps me out so much. Go ahead and subscribe. I upload videos every single week. Follow me on Instagram at Holly Hearts Books and on Twitter at Holly Niece. And until we meet again, happy reading.